Wish I had some Ja Rule to play. Let's start that one over again from the beginning. All right, welcome in. Tonight, the Maize and Blue Review, National Signing Day recap style here at 8 o'clock. And if you're listening on the podcast, we have, we're going 4 wide here. We have the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review, that is Josh Henschke. He is here. Brandon Justice, the recruiting editor of Tmbr. He's been working all day and all night. He's there. And our video analyst, Stephen Toski, is also here as well. The first time I've been able to look across the screen and see him. Gentlemen, what a day here. It's continuing on. Let's start here with you, Josh. It started very early this morning, but it seems as we sit here right now at 8 o'clock that there are 22 in, and Michigan's got a top 10 class. Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah. I mean, they closed strong. Utilized some late pushes there to get guys in the fold, but I mean, the top 10 class kind of really essentially from the brink. If you're thinking about it, I mean, it wasn't looking pretty here, towards the end of the season. But again, amazing things happen when you start winning football games, especially on the recruiting trail. So they're definitely taking advantage of some, really late momentum. Obviously, some fortuitous bounces with some coaches departing and things like that, and they took advantage there. But I mean, really, not much to complain about today. I mean, this is a strong class from top to bottom. I mean, you're talking, from the 5 stars all the way down to the, lowest 3 stars. It's really impressive.
Brandon, I saw you. You don't have quite the background of the campus marshes there with Will Johnson. That was an incredible picture. That if you took that was awesome with the Christmas scene in the background and campus marshes. But you were down with Will Johnson, and people were holding their breath a little bit about Johnson. When I say people, I say me. I was wondering, but it was just always, that you said though that he was getting calls right up to the last second, huh?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on that story right now, and folks are going to be able to kind of dive into what he said about it, and it'll be exciting to read some pretty good stuff from Will. But yeah, I mean, hey, the scenery, you mentioned the scenery, and it was incredible. I have not seen a signing day ceremony or whatever you want to call it quite like that one, where everyone was dressed to a 9. I mean, he was in a suit, Dad was in a suit, whole family was in a suit. Most of the attendees were in a suit. I was not in a suit. But yeah, as far as Alabama goes, it was legit. They made that they made the calls, and they were trying to get him. Obviously, Damani Jackson, the 5-star cornerback, has a relationship with Will Johnson. And while Jackson very well may end up at USC, I think Alabama knew that it could kind of use him as a catalyst in its efforts to try that. And when you're Alabama, you can kick tires with pretty much anyone, and it's going to be worth it. And if you miss, so what? And so yeah, that happened. However, Will was very adamant that his efforts in trying to keep this class not only together but to build on top of it were at the forefront. That never slowed down. He never wavered from that. Even if he was having conversations with Alabama, which he was, his priorities remained, honed in on building this class. And he put it pretty plainly. He said this was all in the works. So he knew that this was all going to, or it was supposed to all happen. He was just kind of said, similar to us as reporters and, fans in general, holding their breath until that signing actually happened because of how fluid these things go.
Stephen, speaking of scenery, I'm used to, seeing you sometimes down in a little box in the corner with axes and arrows and diagrams and everything. So it's the first time I've seen you, with the beige wall there. But what were your thoughts here in general about, Michigan landing this class here today that they were able to execute?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest concerns heading into today was the safety position. I know we're losing Brad Hawkins. It's likely Dax Hill will go on to great things in the NFL. So I think a couple young guys we have on the roster are really proving themselves. Rod Moore contributing earlier than expected. We saw Makari Page a little bit. You got Moten flying around out there, but losing 2 guys. And before today, I mean, we had Zeke Barry, but then you add a guy like Keon Sabb to that defensive backfield class, and it's really forming into a pretty formidable future in a good way on the defensive back side. Since I heard the name of Morian Walker and watched his film, I still don't know how he's a 3-star. So I'm going to get ahead of probably what Brandon and Josh might have said in my most underrated signee of the day. Just absolute great pull out of former Notre Dame commit, and even Michigan football account had a little dig on Twitter saying like we're feeling lucky. This is our good luck charm, I think they said, in pulling a Morian Walker, getting that flip today. So having a guy like him, he's an athlete who can play both wide receiver or defensive back, and I think Michigan's pitching kind of both sides of that. So I think my most exciting aspect of today is you shored up the defensive backfield. You had Zeke Barry committing earlier this month, but then you get a guy like Keon Sabb, brings a ton of athleticism there. I feel a lot better about the safety position moving forward. And then you bring in guys like Walker and other wide receiver, the big body guy we got out of, where was he out of? Darius Clements out of Portland, Oregon. Another 4-star, 6'4", 210. I think having a big-bodied wide receiver in this class was something that they missed on a couple targets. So pulling a really high 4-star like that is absolutely huge. So more than anything else, you didn't lose a whole lot of guys, added a ton of great people to this class, and you addressed, I think, wide receiver and safety, which were my two biggest positions of need to close out. And you jumped from, what was it, around 20 overall, the class for Michigan heading into today, and now they're up to number 8 on rivals.com. So it's exciting stuff, man. I'm really excited to dive into all the film and break down these guys one by one and get those videos out, because it's a lot funner to do, a lot more fun to do when you can see the talent there and you're not questioning, man, why'd they bring those guys in this class, right? There's not many questions in this class. I think you can find a case for every single signee today that looks like they'll have a pretty bright future here.
We'll stay with that same line. Do you guys, when you look at this class, was there somebody that you think, Morian Walker, a 3-star, anybody else that you think that, Brandon, that you'd say could have been a 4-star, or I don't know if they still get a 4-star at this point here or bump them up anywhere else, but what do you and Josh think about that?
Go ahead, Brandon.
If I had to pick one, oh geez, I've been thinking about this for a minute. Probably. Well, Mason Graham just got his 4th star. He was probably the one I was going to say before that. But Mason Graham's still going to outplay his ranking by a long shot. It's kind of, I'm learning how these rankings work with rivals and trying to keep up with, what's a low 4-star in comparison to a high 3-star. And, the national rankings, trying to figure out where they might land in those if they're not in them, if that makes sense. And I think Mason Graham's a guy that's just like, I don't know. It's hard to not think he's a top 250 player in the country when you watch him, especially given that he's playing in the division he's playing in. And on top of Graham, I'll name 2. I don't want to leave Josh too sparse for options, but Zeke Barry was another guy who just recently got the 4th star. He's incredible. He steps up and drills dudes. He can come off the edge as a blitzer. He blitzes any gap, and we saw this year how often Mike McDonald likes to blitz from all sorts of different areas. He'll overload one side, he'll overload the A gap and the B gap. There's all kinds of things that he'll do to throw stunts in there and wrinkles in there defensively, where angles are coming from all different directions and making it troublesome for the quarterback to figure out where that pressure is coming. So the slide protection can really never get there. And Zeke Barry is like the perfect guy for that. And he just fits it to a mold. And you mentioned, Dennis, how there's a lot of guys in this class when you're looking down the list where it's like, okay, it's kind of hard. Or Steven, that might have been you. Sorry, I'm in a whole different universe.
You're a zombie, man.
Yeah. But whoever mentioned it, it's true. You go down this list, there's a lot of really good defenders that are really hard to imagine not getting in there. Also, my cat's making his guest appearance per usual. But it's hard to go down that list and not pick out guys that make a difference. This is the really, I think, one of the first times in Harbaugh's tenure where the recruiting class defensively, we'll get to offense, but defensively is like a complete scheme fit from in every facet.
Yeah, hard to disagree there, but a lot of these names are names that I probably would have mentioned. Mason Graham is right up there, number 1. Zeke Barry, probably 1B there too for underrated guys. But if I had to throw a name out there that hasn't been said, I would probably say a guy like Damani Dent from Florida, just a super talented guy that didn't get much publicity through this process. I mean, a super athletic guy that can do a bunch of things for you. I think he's going to be a guy that can outplay his ranking. Another guy like Micah Pollard is also another linebacker that will probably outplay his rankings. Like Brandon said, there's a lot of pieces in this class on both sides of the ball here that just make a lot of sense in terms of what Michigan wants to do, both scheme wise on offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I think since we're mainly talking about defense here, I'd probably, if I wanted to switch to the offensive side of the ball, I think a guy like Marlon Klein could really step up and exceed his rankings. Even a Colston Loveland, even though he got his 4-star, I think both of those tight ends are supremely athletic, and just considering the recent trend of tight end development here in Michigan, I think those two guys have a chance to do something really special with this program moving forward. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are right on the cusp of either like the next step up in terms of their star rankings or their talent level or whatever. There's a lot of opportunities for guys to see the field relatively early if they're earned it, like a Rod Moore, who was a 3-star coming out of high school. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And again, like Brandon said, there's fits there too, which just makes a lot of sense. Schematically, where if these guys are good enough, they can plug and play. Mason Graham comes to mind in particular. He's going to be an early enrollee, so for a guy like a defensive lineman is huge. He can get into the weight program and strength conditioning and all that stuff early and learn the playbook. So I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, and that'll be the main theme going throughout the week, is that there's a lot of excitement, not just how they finished, but how they kept on to some guys too.
Tmbr National Signing Day recap. Here we are talking about it, and we're going over all 22. And I say 22, if you look at the team rankings there for Rival, I think Steven mentioned that all the way up to number 8, but they do have 24 players. If you look there on the team rankings, and 2 3-stars, Cavante Henry, a defensive end out of California, and also a linebacker right here in our own backyard in Belleville, Michigan, Aaron Alexander. Do we have any update for people that are watching on the 2 potentially being in this class, whether it's in the days ahead or that late signing period or at all?
I think in the case of
really.
Henry. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying, not really. I mean, there's really not much.
Yeah, there's not a lot of updates. Henry's going to wait till February, and we'll see what Michigan does in regards to that. We reported from the jump that Courtney Morgan leaving was going to have some effect on the West Coast guys in this class. It didn't have much of an effect on any of them besides seemingly Henry. Obviously, making his decision to delay his signing as a commitment is a sign of second thoughts, and that's just how these things go, right? So you don't like Michigan's chances there. The one thing you do like about it is that they get some time to kind of make up for that. I think if he were to sign today, it would have been Washington 100%. But now Michigan gets some time to be like, hey, we know you've got this, Washington's got this new staff. It's like a new shiny toy where like they're going to first year recruiters always typically do better in their first year than they do in their third or fourth, unless they're uberly successful, which doesn't often happen. And so I think that's the case with Henry. And with Alexander, we're trying to figure that out. We'll put it that way. We're just trying to figure it out. So far he hasn't signed. That's about as much as we can tell you.
Yeah, for lack of better words, we're just trying to figure it out. There's really no recognition of him as being a commitment on any of his social media stuff. Wasn't part of the graphics that were released today by Michigan football. So I'm not going to speculate in terms of what's going on, because that just leads to some unnecessary talk. But it's kind of a wait and see at that point. But as far as Cavante Henry goes, I know for a fact that they have not Mom's vote. Mom is a big fan of Michigan and what they've sold to Cavante. I think she's a big fan of it. But at the end of the day, this isn't Mom's decision to make. This is going to be Cavante's to make. So it's you've got the benefit of time if you really want to. If you think he's part of your plans, you've got some time to push for him. You got in homes and all that stuff. So. I think having Mom in your corner is obviously a good start. But we'll see what happens. We've seen some crazier stuff happen in recruiting.
Well, we all know from the original Coming to America when Arsenio Hall in the barbershop scene, he said, "You get in good with the mom, you're good." So that's not bad. Before we go to Steven and talk about the two quarterbacks here today, how about some you said you wouldn't speculate on Alexander. How about some speculation on that late signing period? And Brandon mentioned Washington, but Josh Connerly Jr., who is right there in Washington, I'm sure the Dubs are going to try to keep him home there. But, does Michigan have any chance here with a month still to woo him to get him in this class? Is that something that would you put it as realistic? A shot, no shot? What would you guys say?
I think Andrew Gentry was huge in that situation because if Michigan wasn't going to get Connerly, they were really going to strike out on tackles in this class. You like what Connor Jones brings to the table, but Connerly is a sure thing. And Gentry comes with the risk of, being away from football for as long as he has. But I think you bet on his character and his discipline and those things also affecting his play within football and coming back from it. I think those things are going to translate well. His commitment to what he's doing right now with his mission is probably going to directly reflect in his play in football. So Michigan's betting on that, right? And Gentry was no joke coming out of high school. He's the highest ranked commit in that class now that he came out of, which is astonishing and an unbelievable win for Michigan in that regard. As far as Connerly goes, it's very similar to Henry, where, Michigan was it's not similar in that Connerly was never committed. It is similar in that Michigan was in a good spot. And then with Connerly, this kind of started to draw more towards potentially staying home. But then when Morgan left, really switched gears, right? That momentum really swung towards Washington. So I think, February is not too long away, but it's long enough for Michigan to, speak its mind. And it doesn't have to do everything it needs to do within 48 hours like it was going to have to with this early signing day. So the fact that it gets, I think like a little over 90 days to do it, if they're going to do it, now they can. They weren't going to be able to do it with either of those with this short of a deadline. But I think that they're going to have a better shot at it now with this second signing day. Now, that being said, as far as you're asking for speculation, I don't think they're going to land either of them ultimately. But that's my synopsis on the situation.
Well, we don't have to speculate when it comes to the quarterbacks. There was a flip. It looks like Alex Orji was going to Virginia Tech, but Michigan's able to flip him. He's coming in, I guess, initially as a quarterback prospect. Steven, Jaden Denegal from California. The longer, I know he's out on the West Coast, but, the whole thing because of the West Coast and Courtney Morgan and everything else, that was one. And then with Orji committing earlier in the day, I was thinking, maybe this would be one to keep an eye on, but they do get both. What do you make of two quarterbacks in this 2022 class? One flip from the Hokies.
Yeah, they're about as different of quarterbacks as you can get, right? Orji is about as mobile of a quarterback you can get. I was trying to figure out who he is the best combination of because he impressed me most when running on the fly, which is like a Shea Patterson thing. But he's almost like if you merge Shea Patterson with a little bit of Joe Milton there, because dude has just a rocket arm, very effortless throw, similar to what we saw with Joe Milton. Not the frame, he's 6'3", 210, so definitely a little bit slighter. But he is a guy who it'll be interesting to see where he ends up because he can do a lot of things well at quarterback, but he has something, I believe it was 11 touchdowns, 7 picks. Accuracy was an area of where he would need to improve on. So he brings a lot of arm talent to the position, but in terms of reading the defense, going through his read progressions, that's something that I feel would take a lot of work. Denical, I think, is probably just a higher floor prospect. He doesn't excite you as much as an Alex Orji, but I just like the prospect of having 2 quarterbacks in this class. I think it's no secret that Michigan's going to go all out in 2023 for the guy down at Detroit King, right? Get the 5-star, go all out for that, and that's your plan for the future. So it makes sense to take both the Virginia Tech commit flip here in Alex Orji, and then have Denegal as well. Neither of them are guys that I feel will really break through. I think they could, and Orji is the kind of a athlete that maybe you take a look at him elsewhere, and it's something that you could see a potential position change down the line. I think you start them both there because with the quarterback position in the transfer portal today, it's always good just to have options. And I think that's what both of these guys have. They're longer term options. Give them 2-3 years and you could have something, right? But it doesn't make sense in this class with what your current roster is with McNamara and McCarthy, with what you're targeting in 2023 with Dante Moore. It doesn't make sense to bring in a guy who's going to have expectations of being the guy right away. It's just not realistic. It's not fair to the recruit, and it's not what Michigan's looking for. So I just like that they're getting 2 guys with different skill sets. I would say one's a higher ceiling in Alex Orji there. One's a higher floor in Denegal. They both bring different skill sets. You give them some time to marinate and see what happens down the line. So I think it's smart just from all sides, both being realistic with the recruits and being realistic with your roster for Michigan.
Yeah, and it's not unheard of seeing a quarterback come in and switch positions, even at Michigan. We see it happen all the time. I'm just looking at, I think there's 12, and if to count them on offense that signed today. But it doesn't seem like you would predict either of the quarterbacks to play next year. C.J. Stokes, considering the running back room, and it's stacked, got the room or the news on Hassan Haskins going to the Senior Bowl, but there's still a lot of talent there. I don't know about the tight end position. I don't think any of the linemen, maybe these wide receivers, but the wide receiver room is pretty stacked there too. But I don't know if these guys from Morris to Clemens to Walker, maybe one of them gets out there and makes an impact. You guys have any thoughts on who may be able to jump in there and be able to do something this year?
I think Darius Clemens immediately comes to mind. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", 200 plus pounds. I can run a 4.3. I mean, it's like those don't grow on trees, and Michigan certainly doesn't have that on the roster. I mean, that's no slight to any of the other receivers that they have right now, but having an outside threat to go alongside Ronnie Bell, who's coming back next year, will be paramount. And you got a guy that automatically fills that role and is pretty much as game ready as you can get from a frame standpoint in Clemens right there to just plug and play and let him go have fun with it. But I mean, that's probably the guy on offense, especially as a wide receiver, that just makes the most sense of getting playing time. I mean, and again, that's not to say that Amorion Walker can't come in day one and see time too. But, if you're talking from just a frame standpoint, Nico Collins type of guy, Michigan just doesn't have that right now. And Clemens can absolutely 100% be that guy for you.
Yeah, I added them up, 10 on offense, 12 on defense. And then there's Gentry, who doesn't get ranked in this class, but he's part of it. Do I have that right in saying that, Brandon?
Yeah.
Do you agree that one of those wide receivers, if it's going to be somebody here on the offense, making a move this as a true freshman?
Yeah, it's got to be Clemens. I mean, he's just a stud. He's just got this like anomaly type of build to him. He's like, I said it. It sounds crazy. I said it earlier. Again, it sounds crazy. He's like DK Metcalf, right? Like DK Metcalf's built like a brick, so he doesn't have that to him. But Metcalf is the same height. Metcalf ran a 4.33 or whatever it was at the NFL Combine out of college, and everyone thought, oh well, his route running stinks, and well, I think he's all right. And here's the thing. I mean, Clemens is a polished route runner. He's good. He's a high IQ kid. He came to Michigan and noted how important the academics were to him. He's really well versed, really well spoken, 4.0 type kid. So, that translates to how he studies playbooks and all of that. So, yeah, I think his ceiling is just like absurd, man. Like, it's like honestly, you could go on and on about Darius Clemens, like the addition that he is to this class, because first and foremost, before Amarian Walker, ended up signing with Michigan, they didn't have a big body type receiver in this class. Not only did they not have a big body type receiver in this class, the only receiver they had committed, not only was he 6 foot, which is completely fine because it fits right into their scheme, but he's coming off torn ACL, Tyler Morris. And Tyler Morris is, I think just as smart football IQ wise as Clemens is on the field. He understands how to navigate the field. He's a good vision when he has the ball in his hands. When he was at Nazareth, a lot of screens that went his way, a lot of bubble screen designs, a lot of mid screen designs, underneath stuff. He's a slot guy. He's going to play that Roman Wilson type of role, Mike Sanders still type of role. But I think his ceiling is much higher than both of theirs. Personally, this receiver class is very good. Amarian Walker is not physically ready, I don't think, to play as a true freshman. But his ceiling is also arguably just as high or close to as high as Clemens. But yeah, no, Clemens is definitely the guy that I think I don't think it's wrong in saying, like, it's unanimous that I think 9 out of 10 Michigan recruiting people would agree that if you had to pick one person from this offensive class, I think almost all of them are going to pick Clemens as the guy that can make that impact. Just given the frame and the physical readiness on top of everything else. Defensively, you have some guys who can plug and play there. Michigan substitutes lots on defense too. They get a lot of guys mixed in, as we saw this year. So it gets a little bit different on that side of things. But yeah, I mean, Michigan needs it. And here's a scary thought for you guys in a good way. Josh, you mentioned Nico Collins. Well, Nico was running like a 4.7 out of high school, and we were worried about how slow he was. We didn't think Nico was going to be able to translate at the next level because of how damn slow he was. But his high point ability, his ability to get to the catch, his leaping ability, all those things, how much of a mismatch he was in man, all added to what he ended up becoming. And while Clemens might not be as big as him weight-wise and maybe won't be as much of a mismatch, well, honestly, I can't even go that far. I mean, imagine Nico Collins running a 4.3. That's what you're getting. It's something special. Now, if Darius Clemens ends up being a dud, then, I'll eat crow. But, at this point in time, I have to say Clemens is as good of a wide receiver, including Donovan Peoples-Jones, to come to Michigan in Harbaugh's tenure.
High praise. I love it. Steven.
I'm raising my hand. You mentioned 9 out of 10 people would say that Clemens is the immediate impact offensive player. I'm going to be the 1 out of 10, and it's going to be a dark horse choice. I'm going to go with Colston Loveland.
Yeah, it's a great choice. That's a phenomenal choice.
Out of Gooding, Idaho. And I think this is highly dependent on what happens with Eric All as well after this season. If he declares, I think you see Colston Loveland be almost an immediate guy you throw in as that sort of like H-back you put in the backfield as they have with Eric All. I think even with Eric All around, I think Colston Loveland is, he's a 4-star, and I think he's pretty appropriately ranked. But being out of Idaho, I think it's tough to judge how good of an athlete he really is. But because of his high-level basketball play, he has a huge wingspan. He also plays defensive end. I think he brings just a really crisp skill set that I feel like is probably closer to around a top 150 guy if he was at a larger school. Being in Idaho, it's hard. It's really hard, especially with COVID, development and things like that, to appropriately judge that. I think he's pretty close to plug and play. Of course, with the tight end, you want to bulk him up, get him closer to 250, 260, wherever he'll land. But man, with those basketball skills, soft hands, I feel like I'm reading a bio of a guy who's Eric All 2.0. And you can throw that guy as that kind of H-back, that jumbo H that you run in motion, on bootlegs, run him out of the backfield and get him in space like they have with Eric All this year. I think that's a guy you can take advantage of right away. So 9 out of 10 guys, maybe Brandon are with you on Clemens. I'm going to be the contrarian here and go
maybe both.
Colston Loveland. Hey, that'd be cool.
Because and what's more here is that Loveland might not be Marlon Klein could do the same thing with Loveland, right? Because there is a chance that Schoonmaker and All are both not back, right? There is that chance. And I think you might even say you lose Schoonmaker, right? And you don't lose All, or say just one. It doesn't matter who. the two of them could easily be in that competition in the early goings, those first couple games, just to see who gets there. I'll tell you what, though, and I was doing these player comps last night, and I felt like I was in a different universe, but it's okay. It was Dawson Knox type stuff from Loveland for me, and
the Buffalo Bills tight end, yeah.
Yeah, and it was similar. I wasn't going to go this far as to saying it's hard to comp tight ends with the NFL when there's like so few of them that are good. Gesicki is similar to me with Klein with the athleticism. Gesicki was special, right? I mean, he is special. His ability to high point the balls and just his leaping ability in general is second to none. I don't think Klein can emulate that. What I think Klein can do is have that same type of athleticism, and he's far quicker than a Gesicki type or an All type or a Loveland type. I think he was listed as like a 4.5 or a 4.4. Like and there's this play in his tape that I watched where he comes out of the 3-point and runs in like a little bit of, I think it was a mesh concept out into the boundaries, and he's running this underneath route and takes it to the boundary and just flies. And like you watch the Eric All play against Penn State and you watch those two like side to side, Klein looks like he's like on ice skates, dude. Like he flies. So yeah, I mean, I was talking to Josh about this morning. I was like, dude, I got behind the player profiles because I was just enamored with the tight end class. Like I watched the highlight tape and watched NFL tape to like compare the two for like an hour. So yeah, I mean, that's a phenomenal pick, Steven. That just flew right over my head. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah, I couldn't, talking about not moving forward at all. Klein, I was looking at the and I love Ann Arbor and the campus and everything else, but Klein, the place that he plays at down there in Georgia, I mean, you couldn't pick a more idyllic campus. I mean, it looks like it's the nicest thing I've ever seen. I was just taking a tour of the campus and looking around, and I was just thinking, man, this guy, wherever he goes, he's taking a step down. It's an unbelievable place, what they have going there.
Well, did you know he moved there from Germany?
I was going to say something and bring Julius Welschoff into the conversation.
There you go.
But no, I was just I didn't get much further than just looking at the campus and saying, "Wow, man, this is the nicest high school. I can't believe this is a high school campus. It's awesome."
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to relate to this, Dennis, but I think Josh and Steven might remember Zoe 101. Kind of feels like PCA type place,
Oh, I haven't thought about that show in about 15 years.
There's a lot of things I've thought about today that I haven't thought about in 15 years.
Jeez, he dug deep for that one.
That's the one where they're living in the very top floor of the whole or the.
That's the Sweet Life, but that's also a good one.
That's the Sweet Life. That was after my childhood days.
Yep.
But they all blend together at this point.
Resident young guy. That was my time, except for Dash. Dash has got some years on me, below me, which is good. Humbles me.
Yeah, that's fair.
There you go.
Well, I have a 15-year-old daughter, so Jesse, Victorious. I mean, I've seen quite a few of these shows, but there is a gap in there. All right, well, let's take it from TV shows over to the defensive side, and we mentioned some of the guys that you think that might be able to hit the field, and you go to those defensive backs, Steven. Will Johnson immediately, you would think, and we don't know, you mentioned the safeties that will likely be gone. So there's some playing time there. A cornerback, I think you could get 2. You could make a case for 3 starters coming back. Where would Will Johnson fit in? Do you think that it's corner for sure? Bides his time. Is there any chance that he could be a safety? What are you looking at there with the DBs and immediate playing time?
Yeah, for cornerback, I don't think there's a position that is that one-to-one when it comes to recruiting versus on-field production for me, where if you're an athlete, and especially those high-level 5-star guys, it's so rare to me where you'll see a guy like Will Johnson and be like, yeah, he needs some time. It's pretty cut and dry for me that Will Johnson's going to have the ability to go right away. Now, will he rotate? Right. Vincent Gray has had one of the best turnarounds as a defensive back I think I've seen in a long, long time. You got DJ Turner there as well. So will he supplant one of those right away? Hard to say, but if he's not a part of the day one rotation, I'd be shocked. So I think that's a pretty clear cut guy you're going to see on day one in some capacity. I think it is true corner. I think you have other guys like a Keon Sabb that could fill in kind of as like that nickel corner, fill the role of Dax Hill. And honestly, I wanted to bring up Zeke Barry before Brandon brought him up, because he was a guy who I was thinking like, man, this guy's a 3-star. His film just sticks out in a way that, like, I remember going back and watching like Cleek Hudson's film, or when he was a 3-star, and I was just like, this guy's all over the field. He looks just on a different level than most film I've seen. And Zeke Barry got that 4th star, and I was like, oh, I wanted to like be right about him. So, so Zeke Barry, I think, will be immediately competing for a role as well. And I would bet he could be a part of that rotation. So I think in terms of like anybody else, I really like Damani Dent, as I believe Josh brought up, had a quieter recruitment. And I do like what some of the linebackers bring. I think you have enough bodies at linebacker right now to where I don't see the linebackers making an immediate impact. Could be wrong there. But I think you're, in my head, you got Will Johnson, an absolute yes. And then I think you're going to have a battle with Keon Sabb and Zeke Barry amongst the existing safeties out there competing for those 2 spots that should be opening up. So my bet, honestly, I think Zeke Barry might beat out Keon Sabb if they're going head to head. I think they fill a different role overall, but I think Barry is, even with that 4th star, is closer to 5-star status than I feel like a lot of people give him credit for.
And a lot of things that are going to shake down. We got to see what's going on with the portal. We know just with the numbers here, there's going to be guys that are going to be hitting that portal. And that might be the biggest indicator on who might have a chance to get into the mix or not. Anybody else that you guys look at? I know we've talked about Mason Graham. It's tough as a defensive tackle to get out there and play as a true freshman. But we have seen some guys. It's not like when you look over and you see like Chris Jenkins, I know he was a redshirt freshman, but it's not like, he didn't have this gigantic frame or anything. It's almost like if you can play now and get in there and you can get after the QB a little bit, whether it's inside or outside, you might have a shot there. And they might have a shot at somebody as an outside linebacker or a defensive end, considering what they're going to lose there. That could be in there and could be with a chance, whether it's spot duty or anything else. Josh, you want to identify anybody here that you think could hit the field sooner rather than later on the defensive side out of the 12 on defense?
Yeah, it would be, this one's kind of under the radar for me a little bit, but a guy like Kenneth Grant could also kind of, if he's on the right path in terms of kind of toning things down and shaping up his technique. I mean, he's got the size to kind of slot in there and kind of give guys like Mozzie Smith and Chris Hinton the spell. It's not going to be like, 20 snaps a game type of spell, but there's a path for guys like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham to get, 10 snaps a game, which is not entirely, out of the realm of possibility. And then you got a guy like Derek Moore who, has the physical attributes, has the the frame to, not necessarily to be a day 1 starter, but has the chance to see the field early. You just got to get that waiver situation settled out with in the NCAA and the whole Biff Poggi thing. But, that's another conversation for another day. But, there's a chance for him to, he's a top 100 kid, flirting around on a top 100 kid. So, there's a good possibility for guys that are talented like him to at least see the field early.
Yeah, I think you're right. Cause Moore's a guy that like jumps off the page when you watch the film, obviously. And whenever you're watching it, you're trying to think of like who they're playing against and how worthy it is. We were talking earlier about some guys, and, competition plays a role in what we think it's going to translate to, especially early on. There's a lot of guys who dominate at a certain level and they come in freshman year and it's a wake-up call. But a couple years later, they're kind of back to playing the style they were playing in high school as they get more comfortable with college. But, Derek Moore is a guy that physically and as far as the scheme goes, kind of supports him and fits that role. He's just super high I can't talk anymore. Super high motor. He's relentless. His pursuit is never ending. He is chasing down the pocket for as long as he can. He's a boundary to boundary type of rusher, not similar to Hutch overall, but similar to Hutch in that motor perspective. As far as that goes. And he's a guy that, like, a lot of schools were after for a while. I mean, hey, Oklahoma had him in the fold, and Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley recruited as good as any school out there. And, along with Georgia and Alabama. And I think that, with this edge group, Ojabo's likely not coming back. Hutch definitely not coming back. So you have some guys that are going to come in and compete there, like the Braden McGregors and the plenty of others. But there is a competition there. And we know Harbaugh well enough by now to know that it's, the meritocracy is still very much so a thing. And anyone can beat anyone any given day type of deal in that room. And I think that Moore is the most physically ready one of that group coming in this year. And aside from McGregor, he might be able to match up with anybody in that edge group as is right now. On top of that, I'll add Jimmy Rolder is a guy that I've been high on from the jump.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But Rolder is like the anchor of Michigan's defense, whether it's next year, 2 years, 3 years. He's as sure of a thing in this class. I mean, he plays that role so well at Marist. Again, a school that plays good competition. And I know Michigan's starting to recruit more towards those schools that are playing good competition. Didn't really do a whole lot of that sometimes in the past. And when I went and saw Rolder in person this year, you read 6'2", and then you go in person, and he looks like everything of 6'5". I mean, I'm not sitting here saying he is 6'5". I'm just saying he looks like it. The shoulders are broad. The upper body just is like the epitome of what you want in a linebacker. The lower half is, fluid, athletic. He can drop back into coverage. He can get into the pocket, disrupt the passer. The most impressive thing about him, though, is his closing speed for his size and for his position is just remarkable. The pursuit is, I said this about Moore, but the pursuit it's like vicious. It's with authority. He finishes every tackle into the ground, and we know Harbaugh loves that kind of stuff, and it fits right in. And Michigan, losing Josh Ross, you think they're going to have someone to fill that role. I don't know if it's Colston or Moten off the top of my head right now. I can't think. Just know that I know someone's there. But Rolder is the type of guy where you can let those guys work the outer backs, and Rolder can come in and be your Mike. I don't know if it's going to be a true freshman thing, a redshirt freshman thing, a redshirt sophomore thing. I just know that if you're asking me right now, I think it's inevitable that Rolder becomes that guy for them.
Well, one thing we do know for sure, Junior Colston was a true freshman. He did get out there, and he did play a lot, contribute. So it's not unheard of. Thinking of Rolder, especially after what you had to say there. All right, you guys have been going all day long, so I'm going to end it with two things here. One, I think we can all agree that Michigan got hot here late and vaulted themselves into the top 10. It appears that momentum is continuing into the 2023 class where they're hot as well. That's my final thought when it comes down to it. But I wanted to ask you guys what your day was like covering this thing from wire to wire. To where you're at right now, and then we'll get to some final thoughts. Let's start with you, Brandon. Last night at 12:30, I was looking at your primer there, and I noticed, like, man, I'm getting up. I'm staying up pretty late. I'm thinking about getting up pretty early, and then I'm like, wait a second, Justice just posted this 10 minutes ago, so he's up pretty late too.
Oh, I don't know. Where did we start, Josh? Josh was probably the only person. Josh and my roommate were pretty much the only two people that got the skinny on what was going on with me last night. So it was like 9 or 9:30. I just got like super tired, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna sleep. I'll wake up, I'll grind some stuff out, go to bed at like 2 or 3, wake up early, grind some stuff out, whatever. That was my plan. One thing led to another. I didn't sleep, so I woke up at like 11, and I worked until noon today. And then at noon, Josh was like, hey, please take a nap. And I was like, all right, sounds good. Thanks for the advice. And then you'll love this. I'm finally into my, like, what do you call it? The second realm of sleep, whatever the heck it's called. I was in the phase of sleep where I was finally enjoying it, and got a ring, and I was like, okay, here we go. I thought it was Josh, like something crazy had happened. Like, oh no, Derek Moore's going back to Oklahoma. I don't know. Something crazy is happening. Keon Sabb's in space now. I don't know. So I answer the phone, and it's actually Alex Orgy's parents, which that's going to be coming out tomorrow. So I got to, I hope if they're tuning in, thank you for waking me up. I appreciate it. I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but that's what happened. And then when I woke up, finally, it was 3:15, and I called Josh freaking out. I'm like, dude, I got to get to Will's signing by 4, but I got Braylon's show at 3:30. We figured it out. It all worked out, but that was my day. I got back from Will's signing and then grinded out his story, which is almost done. Hopped on here. That's my day. But that being said, this is why we do it. You know, one day a year, you got to just be like a psycho. You got to be an absolute sicko for like 24 hours, 1 year, 1 day a year. It's what you sign up for. It's what you do. If you don't love it, don't do it.
My experience is it's more than 1 day for you, though. Part about
well, some of us are just permanently sickos, so can't speak on that.
Josh, I saw. I woke up and I saw, and I'm thinking, all right, I'll be the first one in here checking everything out. I wasn't the first one. You guys had already been in there and posting and putting the letters up and watching as everything rolled in. But that was an all day. I mean, there was some concentration that was needed there. And you're pretty fast. You're pretty fast on your feet and pretty fast typer as well, man. Because it was, as the news was coming out, you had to get it there, and it was there.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I think it's just been a crazy 24 hours. Right around like I don't know, 10:30 last night, things started to the crap hit the proverbial fan, so to speak, with the whole Deion Walker news coming out. We were told that he wasn't going to end up being at Michigan after all, even though, hours beforehand, it was pretty much a done deal to Michigan. Then I had someone text me saying, "Oh, Darius Clemens is looking iffy. Auburn's making a late push." And then I had a guy saying, "Oh, Damani Dent, Miami's coming through." It's just like it just didn't stop. And so there's a lot of following up, a lot of like, okay, well, let's just reassess what's going on here, figuring it out. And so I finally felt like I had the message board to the point where I could go to bed and not have it implode while I was sleeping. That was like 2:30 in the morning. So I finally go to bed. I get up. I don't even know what time it was. I think it was 7.
Pretty early. Yeah,
it was like right before 7. And my alarm when I was supposed to go off at 8. But I'm like, you know what? I woke up at 7. I'm like, actually, things are starting now. So I probably should get up. So I got up and pretty much did this all day. Let's just say I took my first shower of the day about 2 hours ago. I've been smelling and just been gross all day because yes, I am a sicko too in more ways than one apparently. So it's just a wild day, I mean, and this was our first one too, which we had to nail, and I really think we did. Everyone, not just it goes beyond Brandon and I. I mean, everyone. It takes a whole team effort to do this thing. And, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do, not just this week, but, since November 1st, it's been a really impressive, really proud of what we have here.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite times of year where now I can dive into, I have dived into these profiles, but now it's like, all right, I can feel good about posting a video and put together like the position group and where these guys fall in with the depth chart, right? There's always a piece of you where you want to do that ahead of time, but then it's like, oh, and then this guy flips over to Texas, and there's just that anticipation where it's like, oh man, if I put together this video, spend 8 hours on it, and then it just boom, just like that. And it's so now comes the fun part for me, where I'm going to be breaking down each position group, kind of where they fall in with the depth chart. And then I do my yearly series where I go through every single guy. And it's like a 10-minute plus video on breaking down their entire recruitment, their ranking, and deeper in on that as well. So this is the fun part, man. This is where I'm, as soon as these guys are signed, now it's like, now we get to go all in and feel comfortable about doing so. So this is where the fun begins, man.
I love it. I love that. You guys have any final thoughts here?
Let's get ready for 23. Let's do it.
There it is.
It doesn't stop. Never stops.
My final thought is go watch Kenneth Grant's film, because they don't have 6'4", 335-pound guys who have that sort of spin moves on film.
Yeah.
Right.
You feel like you're watching something illegal with the nimbleness that guy brings at that size. It's really fun.
Yeah,
so
he's got. Oh, go ahead, my bad.
I was just going to say that if there's one film that you're going to watch and it's not named Zeke Barry, I would say Kenneth Grant is the guy to go watch some film on. Yeah,
they haven't had a pass rushing interior tackle like him since Mo Hurst, unless I'm forgetting someone, which I might be. But or someone of that specialty, right? He gets back there like regularly, or so it seemed. And I think you said it best with the spin move. It's just like lethal. It's like I don't know if I have any AEW fans at home, but if you ever watched Chris Jericho's Judas Elbow, it's very reminiscent. But I'm diving deep into the waters right now. I gotta go. We gotta go to sleep, Dennis. It's getting weird.
Yeah, I get it. My final thought would be outside of Michigan, but it was actually a tweet from Danny Cannell who said, of note, he was talking about signing day. He said, not only did Jackson State outbid Florida State, but they also outbid Georgia and Texas A&M. This caught everyone by surprise. I like that one. So good job for Dion hauling in the top player in the country. That really puts a nice cherry on the top of this National Signing Day. That's one of the headlines, obviously, across the country to see Dion pull one from his alma mater. Wow, crazy stuff. Great job, Josh, Brandon, Steven. You guys, it was fun. We can do it all the time. You guys are sick enough. Another National Signing Day. All right, we'll keep it going. And we know what you got, Brandon. You said we know, Steven, Josh, you'll be up tomorrow at 7 a.m., taking care of the day.
Not.
I hope not either. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. National Signing Day.